A desperate couple takes justice into their own hands after the man who murdered their son escapes with a light sentence, but their path to vengeance leads to an unthinkable mistake. The movie begins when a man named Craig and his wife Elise decide to take turns looking after their 6-year-old son, Benjamin, due to their busy work schedules. One morning, Elise goes to work and Craig stays home to care for Benjamin. While they're playing in the yard, Craig goes inside to get sunscreen, and at that moment, a man who had been watching them from a car approaches the house and kidnaps Benjamin. A terrified Craig chases after the kidnapper, but he loses track of him. When Elise returns home, she is shocked to see their house surrounded by police. Upon hearing that Benjamin has been kidnapped, she screams at Craig in fear and anger. Hours pass, but the police fail to find any leads and are baffled that the kidnapper has not contacted them to demand a ransom. Meanwhile, Benjamin is locked in a basement by a man named John, crying and calling for his parents. Angered by Benjamin's screams and fearing he might be discovered, John decides to kill Benjamin to silence him. A few hours later, neighbors report strange sounds coming from John's basement to the police. Officers arrive at his house and question him, but John insists they have the wrong address and refuses to let them inside. One officer notices children's clothes through a window, and they force their way in and discover Benjamin's lifeless body in the hidden basement. The news of Benjamin's death shatters Craig and Elise's once happy life. When they learn that John is sentenced to only 25 years in prison, they are outraged and decide to take justice into their own hands. They find out when John will be transferred to another prison and follow the police van. At a gas station stop, Craig seizes the chance to steal the van, while Elise follows closely behind in their car. While speeding away, Craig accidentally hits a deer, causing him to lose control of the van. Craig survives the crash and pulls John, who was thrown out of the van. Together, Craig and Elise take him to a remote cabin deep in the woods. When John wakes up, Craig injects him with a drug to keep him conscious during the torture. Craig begins by burning John's stomach with a cigarette, and over the following days, he and Elise inflict brutal torture on him. One day, after removing John's gag, he tells them that he doesn't remember anything, not even who he is or why he is here. He claims the last thing he remembers is the car crash. Craig and Elise begin to wonder if all their torture was meaningless, as John seems to have no recollection of his crimes. That same night, John manages to free himself from his restraints and escapes the basement. Police, who have been searching the area for days, find and arrest him. However, a shocking twist unfolds when it is revealed that there was another man named Patrick in the prisoner transport van with John, who was imprisoned for tax evasion and fraud, with a strong resemblance to John. Unbeknownst to them, Craig and Elise had mistakenly taken Patrick to the cabin instead of John. During the crash, the real John had escaped. The man the police found in the woods was actually the real John, while the man who escaped from the basement was Patrick. Instead of fleeing, Patrick returned to the cabin and hanged himself in the basement, leaving behind a letter for Elise and Craig. Patrick wrote that he could no longer endure the torture and that he felt guilty for his past crimes. Believing he deserved to die, he decided to take his own life. When Craig and Elise discover the truth, they are horrified and overwhelmed with guilt. They realize they tortured the wrong man, failing to take revenge on John for Benjamin's death.